Hey guys, it's Gaia, what's up, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be spilling all of the tea about Nottingham Trent University student accommodation. I mean, I'm technically drinking hot chocolate, but we are still going to be spilling the tea. I'm going to be covering both NTU owned accommodation and private student accommodation. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Gaia and I'm a third year psychology or criminology student at NTU. And on this channel I do all sorts of videos about Nottingham Trent University, university life, vlogs, psychology, lifestyle, we've got it all really. However, if you've been watching me for a while, you will remember I actually did a part 1 to this series where I actually tier ranked all of the main NTU buildings. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. We had a lot of fun filming that. So if you do like the sound of today's video, go give this video a massive like so I know to make more of these videos in the future. And if you're new here and you want to stick around, feel free to click that subscribe button. I'd be more than happy to have you in our family. But yeah, other than that, I've got some tier ranking to do, so let's go. But before we get into the main bulk of the video, first, thank you so much to Amber Student for sponsoring this video. Amber Student is a platform through which students can book accommodations near their universities. As Southeast Asia's largest student accommodation provider, they currently operate in over 100 plus cities across the UK, Europe, Australia and even the US. They even do listings for some of the Nottingham accommodations that I actually tier rank in this video, so you definitely want to check that out. If you're worried about having a stressful booking experience, don't worry. Amber Student are here to make it as seamless as possible with 3 easy steps. Number 1, students can choose from a wide range of options depending on their preferences, including low to high budget options and flexibility in size/occupancy. So if you're looking for twin shared, studio, ensuite, they've got you covered. Number 2, they provide students with round-the-clock free and personalised assistance each step of the way. A great example of this is the COVID-19 policy, which offers free cancellations and relief from visa-related uncertainties. So no visa, no pay. Number 3, not only will Amber Students executives take you every step of the way, but they will also take care of all the brain-numbing, stressful paperwork and even offer live viewing sessions so students can always find out more about their home before they move in. So if you are interested in checking out Amber Students' accommodation platform, they are actually offering all of my lovely subscribers £10 off your booking if you click the link in the description box below. So yeah, other than that, let's get back to some tier ranking. So first off on our tier ranking, I've got the top spot, which is architecture orgasm, which is basically for buildings that are just like, you know, chef's kiss, like just beautiful works of art. You know, you just happily live there forever and it's just, you know, just stunning, like we stan. The next tier is you're probably an international student, so these are for all of the properties that are just so expensive for a university student and so bougie and just so posh to the point that like chances are if you're going to be living in this property, you're probably an international student. The next tier is good if you're on a budget, so these are for ones that are like alright, they're not amazing, but if you are a broke queen like myself who is struggling to get by and barely has a student loan to cover them, these accommodations are perfect. They'll do the job for you. Moving on, we've got questionable but okay, so these are the ones just, you know, middle of pack, nothing's really special about them. There are some aspects of these accommodations that are a bit odd, but they're tolerable. The next tier is I was rooting for you, which is basically for accommodations that literally had so much potential but like leave you with nothing. The reviews are in and it's not looking good for you. These ones aren't like terrible, but they're not the best, okay? They're just a bit of a letdown, sadly. And the last but definitely not least is the should be demolished tier, which I think just really speaks for itself, you know. These buildings should not be allowed to stand, like there is evidently something massive wrong with them and I don't really recommend you staying in them. Fingers crossed no accommodation has to be put in this category, but who knows at this point. First off, we've got Blenheim. I'm gonna see if I can find it on this picture list. I swear like 3 of them look the same. For those who don't know, Blenheim is basically a 15-minute walk from campus and it has all ensuite bedrooms ranging from 138 per week. From what I've heard, Blenheim is actually alright. It's not one of the most popular accommodations to stay at if you're living in the city campus, but it's not exactly the worst and it has got quite a decent decent price. So for that reason, I feel like I'd have to put it on good if you're on a budget. Since we're doing it in alphabetical order because we're fancy, the next one is Brack Ensuite. Now I'm pretty sure this student accommodation is actually relatively quite new. I don't remember seeing it when I first applied at NTU, but I could be wrong since I'm not based on Brackenhurst campus. However, when I was actually looking at the photos online when I was preparing for this video, it actually looks really nice. Like, the rooms look so spacious and like really modern, and I'm honestly so jealous. Speaking of the rooms, they range between £130 to £138 a week, depending if you go for a standard ensuite or a large ensuite. And this accommodation, which is exclusive to Brackenhurst students only, is quite popular from what I've seen. So for that reason, I'm gonna probably put it also in good if you're on a... I don't know though, because I feel like it's too good to be in good if you're on a budget, but I don't feel like it's bougie enough to be in you're probably an international student, because it's actually quite well priced. It doesn't look too fancy for a student accommodation, so I feel like I'm gonna have to put it in again good if you're on a budget. I kind of wish I'd made a tier now that was between you're probably an international student and good if you're on a budget, because it's kind of in the middle. The next one is Bramley Cottages. These are basically exclusive to postgraduate students on Brackenhurst campus and has access to bus routes to both Brackenhurst campus and the city centre. There are only actually a few rooms in the Bramley Cottages, but one room actually offers accessible features such as an ensuite wet room, which I think is really good. Not gonna lie, even though it does look quite decent, I feel like the outside kind of gives me like post office vibes. Like, it does look very villagey, but maybe that's because it is based in Brackenhurst. I don't know, like from the photos it did look a little plain, so I feel like I'm gonna have to probably put it in questionable but okay, like only because it is a bit plain. It doesn't have the star power, okay, that we're looking for when we're looking for student accommodation. I bet this is actually an amazing accommodation, but just from like the looks alone and the vibe I get from it, it's just not for me. Now the next one I'm going to move on to is Byron. Now most of you guys, if you are looking at NTU or are currently studying at NTU, you will probably know of Byron. It is one of the most popular student accommodations you could live at. If you are based in the city campus or Clifton campus for your lectures but want the ultimate sociable party student experience, then Byron is probably the student accommodation for you. It is actually right above the city campus student union, which can be both a good thing and a bad thing depending on whether you like noise or not. I guess it's amazing like distance wise because you're like super close to the SU obviously and like lectures and things. However, because you're on top of the SU, you're going to be able to hear all of the loud student nights out that run every week. If you are one of those people where you want the social experience but you're not particularly a fan of like really loud noise, you're going to want to avoid blocks such as A and B, because they're actually directly above the rooms in which climax Saturdays and most of the nights out are actually based. So you will be able to hear that thumping music until 3 AM. And in particular A block, not only will you have thumping loud music, but you will also have all the cigarette smoke because A block is right next to the smoking area, which is not fun. Also, Byron has also gone up in price like quite a bit since I started at NTU. The rooms range between £165 to £171 per week, depending on how big you want your ensuite to be. Not gonna lie, despite Byron actually being such a noisy, like rowdy accommodation where you can't go anywhere without bumping into a drunk rugby lad, it is actually such a nice building to like look at, and like with all the glass, it's so modern and stuff, and for that reason I feel like I'd have to put it in architecture orgasm because I do love it. It really does work with the actual SU below. The next accommodation, however, I feel looks like drastically different to Byron, and I think definitely has a different vibe to Byron. And this is College Drive, which ranges between £97 to £107 a week. So as you can see, it's a lot cheaper, and I think you kind of do get what you pay for especially aesthetics reasons. This Clifton campus student accommodation is exclusively for mature and postgrad students, so any undergrads who are watching this, you unfortunately cannot live here. It is a really good affordable option if you do want to live on Clifton campus, and is only a bus ride away from the city campus. Not gonna lie, having said that, it doesn't look the best outside. It just looks really like dull and boring, and just like I feel like no one really want to live here. If you literally had to base it off the outside alone, it just doesn't look very inviting. But then I don't know whether it really should be demolished. Is it that bad? Am I mean enough to put it in the should be demolished category? Yes, I am. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry College Drive, but like just from aesthetics alone, it just doesn't look very nice. However, if that's your thing, please ignore me. Next accommodation is Gill Street North, which is a city campus accommodation. This accommodation ranges between £117 to £188 per week, depending if you want larger en-suites and studios. This accommodation is really ideal if you want to live on campus and you do want a bit of a social life, but you don't want it to be as rowdy as, say, Gill Street South or Byron. Like I said, it is sociable and is very popular for flat prees. Despite that though, it is kind of treated, I feel bad saying this, but it is kind of treated like a B-Tech Gill Street South. However, despite that, it is still a really good accommodation if you are interested and is very popular among students. It is definitely more the affordable version of Gill Street South. So I feel for that reason, I'd have to put it in good if you're on a budget. Now moving on, we have Gill Street South. Now, I might be biased because I did actually stay in Gill Street South when I was in first year, but I think personally it is one of the best accommodations, maybe even the best accommodation at NTU. And that is because it's very modern and clean and is one of the most popular accommodations. On city campus, it costs £165 per week and all of the bedrooms are en suite. Not gonna lie, looking at all of the pricings for these student accommodations, it is actually quite crazy to think of how expensive they've gotten over the last 2 years. Like when I was living in Gill Street South, it was like £155 a week, and that was for both Gill Street and Byron, whereas like I know Gill Street has only gone up a tenner, but like Byron's now £171, which is quite expensive for a student accommodation that isn't that bougie. The ensuite rooms in Gill Street South actually look exactly the same to Byron, so if you are planning on getting a room in Byron but are unlucky because it is quite popular, I do recommend Gill Street South. However, the only downside is, unlike Byron, Gill Street South doesn't have lifts. So little tip, if you are planning on living in Gill Street South, I don't recommend living on the top floor unless you feel like lugging your shopping up 4 flights of stairs or walking all that way when you are smashed after a night out. Like I said, this accommodation is actually really good if you want the sociable vibe but you don't want it to be too rowdy like Byron. So for those reasons, I'm gonna have to put it in architecture orgasm because I can't help it, okay? I feel like I probably actually should have just made like Gill Street South its own tier because I just loved it so much. The flatmates not so much, but I did really love the vibe of the place. Moving on, we've got Hampden. Now Hampden kind of gets a bit of a bad rep because a lot of people do tend to get bad first impressions from it because it kind of does look a bit basic compared to Gill Street South and Byron. However, a lot of people I know who did live in Hampden actually had a really good time and have met friends for life, so you know. It's definitely a lot cheaper at £119 and only has shared bathrooms and no ensuite, so if that is a make or break, I don't recommend Hampden to you. However, sharing bathrooms is actually a really good practice if you are planning on living in a house in 2nd and 3rd year. So for those reasons, I'm going to have to put Hampden in good if you're on a budget, because even though it isn't as like fancy as a lot of the other student accommodations, it does get the job done and a lot of people do like living there. Next accommodation is Meridian Court. Now this one ranges between £105 to £112 a week, so as you can see it's a little cheaper than say Byron or Gill Street South. It's a 15-minute bus journey from campus, or if you read the NTU accommodation website, it says it's also a 40-minute walk if you're feeling energetic. Now I don't know about you guys, but I don't know what would possibly compel me to want to walk 40 minutes to uni every day. As you guys guessed, it is slightly further away from the city campus. However, don't worry, it does come with a free bus pass. I know, ooh, oh, you're really being spoiled. However, having said that, I actually stayed at Meridian Court once for a sleepover and I didn't actually realise until I got there that they have shared bathrooms. And no, I'm not talking about those cute shared bathrooms that you get at Hampden where you literally share with like one other person. Not only in Meridian do you have to share your bathroom with your whole flat, which is like 9 others by the way, but the bathrooms actually look like communal swimming bathrooms. The ones where the showers are literally bath curtains where like anyone can walk in.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
I mean, I don't know about you, that might float your boat, but quite frankly, that is not for me. Also, Meridian kind of looks like a prison. So for those reasons, I'm going to put it in I was rooting for you. Now, the next one is New Hall, which is kind of like the Byron or Gill south of Clifton campus, so perfect for socialising and is really close to lectures. You can also choose between shared kitchen en-suites or studio en-suite. Even though it is actually really modern looking, I don't know where the New Hall is like architecture orgasm. But having said that, I don't feel like it's bad enough to be in like good if you're on a budget. So I feel like for that reason I'm just gonna have to put it in architecture orgasm, because it is actually quite similar to Byron and Gill south, even though I do think Byron and Gill south are slightly better. Next one is Norton Court. Now, I don't know why, but this one kind of sounds like a prison, and it isn't too pretty either. It's a half-hour walk from city campus or a short bus ride, and is super close to supermarkets and shops and takeaways. It's not really one of the most popular accommodations in city campus. However, having said that, it still does look like a quite good accommodation. So for those reasons, I feel like I'm gonna have to put it in questionable but okay. Next one is Peverell, which kind of seems like New Hall's less popular, less pretty sister, and is kind of like the Gill North of Clifton campus. Sorry, Gill North. However, all of the rooms are en suite and is quite a popular place to live, and from what I've heard, a lot of people do rave about Peverell. So for those reasons, I'm gonna have to put it in good if you're on a budget. Moving on, we've got Sandby, which is another city campus accommodation, which is quite similar to Hampden, but instead has all en suite bathrooms. Yay! However, in each flat you do have to share 2 tiny kitchens with 24 students, which doesn't sound exactly ideal when you're trying to find the time and space to cook your dinner every night. Also, the rooms are quite basic, and like I feel like the outside doesn't look really the nicest. Like I feel like they could really judge it up a bit. So I feel like for those reasons I'm gonna have to put it in questionable but okay. Sorry, Sandby. I feel like if the flats didn't have to share between like 24 people, I'd probably put it in good if you're on a budget, but just because like that seems like a lot of people crammed into like quite a small place, and from what I've seen the rooms are quite small, it's not really my fave, I'm sorry. Moving on, we've got Simpsons, which is a short bus ride or a 25-minute walk from city campus, and is also very similar to Norton Court. I feel like this one just looks like a workhouse, quite frankly. However, I'm pretty sure inside the rooms are actually quite decent, so for those reasons I'm gonna have to put it in good if you're on a budget. And the last student accommodation owned by NTU that I'm gonna rate today is the Maltings, which is kind of like if Simpsons and Meridian Court had a baby. It's a 45-minute walk to the city campus. But free travel is included, so you can get the bus or the tram. From what I've seen, you have your own sink in your room. However, you do have to share a bathroom with others. This one also kind of looks like a workhouse, so I'm kind of torn. I don't know if to put it in good if you're on a budget or questionable but okay. I kind of want to put it in questionable but okay, but like, yeah, we're gonna do that actually. Okay, so for the next segment of this video, I'm now gonna rate some of the most popular NTU private accommodations that you can find in Nottingham. What I mean by private accommodation is not the, you know, student landlord houses that you get in 2nd or 3rd year. I'm talking about private student halls that are owned by companies, which, yeah, pretty much act and look like student halls. Even though these private accommodations are open to anyone, the typical demographic you get in these are international students, mature students, postgrads, any other random NTU student that just kind of wants to live there. You do kind of get a mixture of people. Starting off, we've got Student Roost, which technically actually owns like 3 different student accommodation buildings that are like scattered across Nottingham. Their buildings include Trinity Square, Hydrogen. There's a few more that I can't remember, but they're all pretty much the same and they're all pretty much priced the same. They're all really close to city campus as well, which is perfect if you've accepted your place at NTU quite late and are worried about all of the good accommodations going. These private student accommodations range between £155 to £199 per week. So you know, just from that price, these rooms are going to be bougie as f. I've also heard really good things from this company and the several student accommodation buildings Student Roost own. So solely based on the fact that some of these rooms are going for nearly £200 a week, I'm gonna have to put it in you're probably an international student. And not gonna lie, I have a feeling most of these rooms are gonna be going in you're probably an international student, because just you wait, the prices, like, you know, your bank balance is going to hurt after seeing some of these prices. The next private accommodation is the Glasshouse. This one just emotionally pains me, okay? I probably shouldn't get too invested in this, but like I actually really used to rave about the student accommodation because I've always thought it was actually a really lovely accommodation for the price, and you got everything you needed, and it's above an Aldi, so you literally can't get anything better than that. However, over the last few years it has had a mixed bag of reviews from people and friends I know, and not gonna lie, a friend of mine when he was living there actually had to deal with having dried human sick down his kitchen window. Like someone had literally barfed out of their window and it had literally ran down onto my mate's window. Like you don't want to see that when you're cooking, okay? That's just not pretty. So for those reasons, I'm gonna have to put it sadly in I was rooting for you, because it literally had so much potential, but just from what I've heard over the last few years, my opinion of the Glasshouse has really gone down. Yeah, I feel like the only redeeming thing is the Aldi. Moving on, we've got Nova. I honestly don't know how I'd never seen or come across a student accommodation before until recently, because this place is bougie as flip. Like seriously, this is the Buckingham Palace of student accommodation. Like I was looking at its website and I realized it has its own cinema and party room, for God's sake. Like party room, that's all the information you need. Looking at Nova, you'd honestly be surprised at student accommodation just because of how fancy it is. Like it literally looks like one of those places where I feel like it wouldn't be possible to find like a month-old still bottle of milk in the fridge or questionably stained mattresses in this place. So for those reasons, I'm gonna probably have to put it in you're probably an international student, because like this place is literally for the rich and fancy students among us. Next one is IQ Student Accommodation, which is, you guessed it, another bougie fancy accommodation. So this one's going to also go in you're probably an international student. Moving on, you've got Goldsmiths Court. This private accommodation is right on city campus and is honestly so underrated. Like it's literally right next to some of the NTU city campus buildings, and a lot of the time you kind of forget it's a student accommodation because you just walk past it and it just blends so well with the rest of the buildings. And I've always heard really good reviews about this place, so for those reasons I'm gonna have to put it in good if you're on a budget. Now moving on to the penultimate student accommodation, which is Russell View, which is another student accommodation that I hadn't heard of until recently because it's literally hidden among all the student houses in Radford. From what I've seen though, it looks really nice and is actually quite affordable from £132 per week. So I'm also going to put this in good if you're on a budget. Now last but definitely not least, VITA Student. Yeah, okay, we're going to call it VITA Student. This is another super fancy accommodation that I've only heard of recently, and it is very popular among international students, and I feel like that just says it all really. So I think I'm going to put it in you're probably an international student. So there you have it. That is me tier ranking all of the NTU student accommodations and mostly popular private accommodations in Nottingham. Obviously if you are a Nottingham resident or you are currently looking at Nottingham private accommodations, you will know there are loads more private accommodations to rate. However, if I did any more, this video would go on for a very long time because there's just so many amazing accommodations out there. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a massive thumbs up, and if you haven't already, go click that subscribe button. As part of this series, I'm actually also thinking of filming a video where I rank all of the Nottingham nightlife next. So if you'd like me to do that, please let me know down in the comments and I will happily deliver. Also, if you have any other video ideas that you'd like me to do where I tier rank something else in Nottingham or some other university related thing, please let me know down in the comments. I'm always open to video requests. But yeah, I've been Gaia. This has been tier ranking all of the Nottingham student halls. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more content. Bye!